One of the things that makes Segs4Vets very unique in terms of organizations that are out there trying to assist wounded warriors, men and women coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, permanently disabled, is that we're an all-volunteer organization. I'm often asked, how do you sustain an organization over 5 years that's all volunteer with no paid staff, the average volunteer giving up 30 days of their life every year for this, and many of them much more, some of them working year-round at this. And I tell them it's about a purity of purpose, people that feel so strongly about what we're doing, that that's the only way it can exist. You know, we don't get paid in terms of dollars, but when we go to our training and assessment portions of the program at San Antonio or San Diego or in Washington, D.C., where we're working with these men and women, and for the first time they step up on a Segway and they recognize that mobility that they had lost, that they had thought was gone forever, has been restored to them, that they're going to be able to move around easily again and keep up with their family members and do things. There's a lot of tears. There's an extraordinary amount of emotion, and all of us come back from these events emotionally drained. We have these dinners where we celebrate their patriotism and honor their service and their sacrifice with their families and other members of the military and of the community, and then we have the presentation ceremonies. But for us, for all of us volunteers, it's that special interaction during the training and assessment. That's the payback. That's when we know that we're really accomplishing our goal.
When we gather to present the Segways to these wounded warriors, selecting a significant venue is very important. Today we're at the Alamo, and the history and the traditions of the Alamo and what it means to our country. We meet aboard the USS Midway in San Diego Harbor. And of course that is a warship that represents World War II, the battles that our fathers and grandfathers fought. And then of course in Washington, D.C. we meet at the Marine Corps War Memorial, or better known as the Iwo Jima Memorial. And with that, on that hallowed grounds for Marines, it's very important. And then of course the backdrop is Washington, D.C. So you stand there, you look at the War Memorial. Behind it you see the Capitol, the Lincoln, and the Washington monuments. And it just sort of makes us pause and reflect on why we're really there. Because we're there to honor true American heroes that have answered the call, who raised their hand, volunteered to serve at a time that our country's at war.
Before we had the presentation at the Alamo, we had dinner with the vets that were going to receive these Segways. And it was obvious they were still in pain, but they had fought through a lot of pain, and their courage was remarkable.
My name is Jay Fondren.
Courtney Clemens.
Christian Baggy.
Nerlin Jernan.
Michael Edward Burns.
My legs were so shattered by shrapnel that they had to be amputated, one above the knee and the other leg below the knee.
Took both my legs off above the knee during the attack, and then also sustained severe arterial and nerve and muscular damage to both of my arms. Lost my right thumb as well.
IED exploded, and we lost 3 guys that day, and it mangled my leg pretty bad to where they had to amputate it above the knee.
I suffered broken extremities, my hip being shattered into 100 pieces, my lower back being fused together, my bladder was cut from left to right. I had over 17% of my body burned in 3rd degree.
But with the Segway, now I can wear the prosthetics and get on the Segway and be able to keep up with my family. When we go to the park, I can ride it around and not have to worry about the different terrain. As long as the Segway can handle the terrain, then I'm good on it, and I can keep up with them there. And then going on walks around the neighborhood, I can I can keep up with my wife and kids on that.
I was already at school at Penn State University, and I can remember my first week there, and, trying to get to classes. And I remind you, I started school in January, so it was already really, really cold in State College. And I remember walking to class, and it was cold outside. I'm talking about really, really cold outside. And I walk into a classroom, and I sit down beside this young lady, and I'm like soaking wet in sweat. And she looks at me, and I was like, I didn't want to say anything. And she's like, you're real sweaty and wet. And I was like, I'm just, she didn't know I was missing my leg. So at the time, I didn't say anything. Class was over, and just about the time I was cooling down, I felt like I had just gotten to class, and it was already time to go to another class, so I had to hump it to the other one. And for me to get this Segway eliminated all of that. I mean, I was able to show up to class a little early and, be a little bit more prepared for class, so it helped out a great deal.
The great thing about the Segway is the Segway allows me to do things further away from home that I used to do prior to my injury. I like to take the dog for a walk. It's very hard for me to just go on a long walk with the dog, because if I go on, let's say, a 2-mile walk, 1 mile out or 1 mile away from the house, I may develop a bad rash or sore from the prosthetic rubbing my skin. Well, I've got to walk back. I'm kind of stranded. So because our dog is half greyhound, she likes to run. So I can jump on the Segway, I can rip down the road at 12.5 miles an hour, and she can keep a jog. And we can go like that for miles. So I get to enjoy the freedom of getting out of the house without the pain and walking the dog like I used to.
The uses of the Segway open, it's like a new door. And as far as my family taking off and having to wait on me walking, or either, sitting down on the scooters that are in more store, I get a chance to stay upright, move faster around, and maneuver around areas much, I would say, better than I could, sitting on scooters and everything else. Helped me get outside easier. Helped me when I'm going to when I went out to the school, I used it, and it helped me get from different buildings, because I'll be enrolled in college here coming this fall season. Now, I know it helped me out a whole lot, even more out there, as it has around here even.
I use the Segway when I go out on a long trip, like the mall, on an outlet, or just to go out in the park. And instead of walking, I use the Segway as a tool, and it helps me stand up tall and people look up to me, instead of as a wheelchair, they look down. So I like the positive look up kind of thing. Looking eye to eye shows things a positive outlook, and people don't feel so sad towards their injury. I don't want anybody to be sad, be happy that I'm still alive. Thank you guys at Segs4Vets. I love you all.
I think anyone who is interested in making a tangible contribution to the future of a disabled veteran, someone who has went to Iraq or Afghanistan with 2 arms and 2 legs, and maybe now has no legs and 1 arm, or a various combination. There's no, Segs4Vets doesn't take stuff off the top. You give $1 and you get $1 of output with that. And I just want to encourage people to, if they're in any way motivated to help a veteran, to consider Segs4Vets, because I can think of no finer way to do it.
What impresses me the most, and I think is the most important difference between Vietnam and today's veterans, or today's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardmen, is the way the country has rallied around supporting them. That wasn't the case when we came home from Vietnam, whether we came home whole or whether we were wounded. So today, unlike Vietnam, even if you don't support the war, we support the warrior. And I have to say that again. Even if you don't support the war, we have to support the warrior.